So Cindy, you have how many children? 2. It just seems like more. And how old are they? They're 10 and 14. Boys. And Caprice?
2 boys, 16 and soon to be 14.
Okay, all right. Lisa?
2 boys.
Okay. And that's it. That says it all.
We're going to start a team, actually. And we're going to protect Cindy's 2 girls.
That's right. Jennifer's 2 girls, yeah.
We're going to keep them all away. I think when I take a look at what has occurred in my life over time, it's always, it's easier to see through the crystal ball in retrospect. And a few of the things that I've really taken away, and you don't think about it necessarily going into it, but you can't plan. You can't ever plan as much as you think you want to plan. You can hear stories, you can learn about successes people have had, but it doesn't lay out the way you always plan it. And balance, which has been referenced, is relative to a point in time. Balance, what may be right now, for balance isn't going to be right 2 years from now, it's not going to be right 10 years from now, it's going to move, and it's an ongoing movement. And so I think taking the collective inspiration of your family, whatever that family structure is, from the people you work with, from the organizations that you work with, all plays into how that balance feeds out. And I would say, as you take that a step further, is there is no normal family unit. The whole theme of it takes a village to raise a child is very true, and never more true now than it is now, because of where women have come over time and the role they play in organizations, primary breadwinners, all of that type of thing. It's very, very important that women embrace what the concept of a village is and what that looks like. I can tell you stories of rising in my career and being on conference calls, and thank God for I don't always say that, I usually want to throw it out the window, but thank goodness for cell phones, because I remember being on a conference call, hopping in the car, talking on the conference call, picking my son up from the bus, taking him to daycare, getting back to my office, still being on the conference call, and nobody knew the difference. I thought it was the end of the world. I can't believe I have to do this, but nobody else knew that was going on. So when I think of my career path, it was very traditional in many ways. I went to college. I went to Manhattan to a corporate management training program in banking for about 10 months. From there, I got placed in a role. I met my husband. He worked at the same bank in Manhattan. It wasn't a scandal or anything. We were just very low peons who happened to meet at a bank in New York. And we decided at some point we were going to get married, and we moved back upstate to where I grew up, because we went into my family's business. And there's a story of how that evolves, and I think Barbara's going to get a little bit more into the questions about the choice for family, but it was a significant turning point in my life, because I went into life thinking once we moved back upstate I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. So I'll leave the cliffhanger there and turn it over to Jennifer.
All right, Jennifer.
Well, I never thought I'd be a mom at all. I really did my career going to business school and working in Manhattan was the early part of my career, and being very serious about being in corporate America. And didn't assume I would get married anytime soon. And even my mom, who's in the audience, had told me at one point we were getting a little rough around the edges. And I knew I was very serious about my career. And I ultimately, it's okay. That's what moms are good at. So I didn't expect any of this balancing at all. And I surprisingly met my husband when I was 29. We got married fairly soon in Manhattan. And as soon as my first daughter came, we picked up and moved to Cleveland, which was a drastic change for me, very different here than it is in a place like Manhattan. And so to go through those changes at the same time was really quite a balance for me to try to manage. So I would have to say now I feel very lucky, because Cleveland has afforded me opportunities to be both a mom and someone who has a career. And I have to admit to you that I don't think I would have had that had I stayed in a place like New York City. So for that, I feel really lucky. And now it is a matter of balancing the act of having children and working and still having a career, and being in an industry which is more in the non-for-profit or social entrepreneurship than in a corporate America. And managing and swallowing that, and knowing that I won't be a top executive that I thought I was going to be, 12 years ago before I moved here. So it's been an interesting ride for me. And the other thing about the balance is that you know, being a mother takes up 100% of your time. Being a wife takes up 100% of your time. Working takes up 100%. So balance, it's like there's no such thing. You just sort of attack things as you can, and that's how I've gone at it. And you know, I thought about telling the girls, my daughters, that I was going to do this today, and I thought, you know, I can't undergo the scrutiny. I'm just going to tell them after it's over. Like Cindy was drilled by her son this morning, and I'm really glad I didn't get that.
My son and my husband
And
are
her
both real smart Alex. Yeah.
I would probably guess that if you talk to most of our families, my husband laughed. I told him I was being asked for my thoughts on work-family balance.
Because you perfected it. Well, going back, Lisa, to the comment that you made earlier about what was it that you thought life was going to, how was it going to unfold for you? So, question to all, but we'll start with you, Lisa. Did you have an option of being a stay-at-home mom? And if so, why then did you choose to have it all?
Well, the evolution of the story is my dad was a small business owner, a car dealership, and my husband and I decided to leave Manhattan and join the family business. In essence, if you want to take over the business at some point, you need to move back upstate, and we moved back up 90 miles north. I figured I'd stay in banking for a little while. That's what I was doing. And my husband drew the short straw and went into my family's business. And I figured once we decided to have children, that I would stay home and raise the children just like my mother had done. And I was fortunate to have two parents, a mother who stayed home, and it was wonderful. The irony, the choice question, comes in because I don't know if it was part of my father's master plan, but he never paid my husband enough for me to ever stop working. Parents. Good. I say that though tongue-in-cheek because ironically, you know, at the time that I did get pregnant, and it did not happen right away, it was a choice. You know, we were not living over our means by any manner of speaking. We had a small little cape, and we were fixing it up ourselves. And it would have set us back a little bit, and I actually didn't think about it in terms of career, believe it or not, at that point, but thought about what it would mean to the family. And so I forged through and figured, well, maybe when we have a second one, I'll be able to stay home. And it just kind of perpetuated itself because at the end of the day, what I've realized, again, in hindsight, is I'm a better mother because I work. And it's taken me a long time to realize that. I've got the type of personality, I've got the drive that I didn't recognize early on. But when I tell people about thinking about being a stay-at-home mom who know me now, they laugh harder than my husband laughed about work-family balance because they know what I am. And I think the quality time that I can spend with the family now is more focused and more intense than if I were home. I probably would have been much more frustrated. And frankly, I probably would have been volunteering full-time and being out of the house just as much because it's the personality that I have. So although we could have made it work, I think something inside drove me to keep going.
So Jennifer, children wasn't exactly the first thing on your list of priorities as you looked out into the future. Did you have an option to be a stay-at-home mom?
I did, especially because we were living here at the time, and we moved here specifically after my daughter was born. But I couldn't stand not working. I honestly couldn't stand the being in the mix, being part of a solution to something, the challenge of going to work every day. I really enjoyed that. And so as much as I felt an obligation to stay home with my daughter, I felt that it would be a better choice for us if I pursued work outside the home. So I did part-time, and it slowly evolved back up to where we are today. I by no means went back full-time right away. But it was something that more drove me crazy when I was sitting home, not working outside the home, feeling like I wasn't part of the world at large. And that was something personally that I wanted to do.
Cindy, what about you?
I feel very much, as Lisa said, that I knew by the time my oldest son was 6 weeks old that I would not be a good stay-at-home mom. And I felt that after I went back to work when he was 2 months old and full-time, and I felt that my time with him at that point was so much more focused.